want to welcome you to the December 5th episode of Laid Back History's 2023 Advent Calendar. What are we going to talk about today? So today I'm thinking we're gonna tell a short story. Actually, I'm going to read a story. I've got a copy of it here, and it's about an event that happened in West Alexander, where there was an explosion that occurred. And so I'm actually going to be reading from the Gettysburg Times. It's from Monday, January 17th, 1916. And so the headline was, "Firebolt Sends Town to Knees. Meteor explodes before bank and church. Beg mercy for souls," was the headline. And so, again, 1916 in West Alexander. And it reads, "Many fearing end of the world fall prostrate before pastor returning from services." It says, January 17th, "Residents of West Alexander were roused from their beds by the explosion of a meteor, which struck the earth in the center of the town's business district. Terror-stricken, the inhabitants ran out, fearing the world was coming to an end and not knowing what dire calamity had befallen. The heavenly visitor had fallen in front of the West Alexander National Bank, and the next thought of the townspeople was that an attempt had been made to rob the bank, which with several other buildings had been damaged by the explosion. Posses were immediately organized and the search began. Father Weber of St. Joseph's Cathedral, who is something of an astronomer himself, solved the mystery of the meteor, and the posse dispersed. Reverend J.G. Deeds, pastor of the Methodist Church, was returning from a country prayer meeting when the meteor fell and was probably the only witness. People running from their homes in wild scream found him standing near the scene of the explosion, and they began to fall on their knees in prayer, begging the clergyman to implore mercy for their souls. The more practical minded, however, saw the damaged front of the bank and immediately assigned a more earthly and highly criminal cause for the explosion, and the hunt for the bank robbers began. When it was found that other buildings, the Methodist Church included, had been damaged, the terror began again with renewed vigor. It was not until Father Weber made his investigation that calm took the place of the storm in the little town. He explained that the head of a meteor rushing through the air had caused it to explode when it struck the earth. Many meteors have fallen in the Ohio Valley in the past, but none of them stirred up half the excitement which this one did. Some of the townspeople are still convinced that the falling meteor is unconvinced that the falling meteor is not the omen of a terrible catastrophe to come during 1916. So yeah, 1916, bad year for West Alexander, apparently. You had a meteor falling on them. And that actually makes me think of another story. Makes me think of another story that I remember. It was in Cray's History of Washington County, and it was just labeled Phenomenon or something like that. Where is that? So Alfred Cray was a Washington County historian, and he wrote what was really the first history of the county, printed in 1871. The history of Washington County from its first settlement to the present time, first under Virginia as Youghiogheny, Ohio, or Augusta County, until 1781, and subsequently under Pennsylvania, with the sketches of all the townships, boroughs, and villages, and etc. And it actually continues on a little bit further, but we're not going to read all that. But anyway, so the meteor makes me think of this. 1801, January 12th. On Wednesday evening last, about 8 o'clock, the atmosphere being cloudy and the night very dark, an extraordinary glare of light arose near the southern horizon and illuminated the whole atmosphere for about 5 seconds. In about 4 minutes and a half was succeeded by an explosion similar to a discharge of a large cannon at a distance, which considerably shook the houses in Washington and kept the windows and door latches in continual trepidation for the space of about 20 seconds. And I'm guessing that was another meteor that hit here. So that was what, 1801. The one in West Alexander was 1916. I think the one in West Alex seemed like a little bit worse. It actually hit the ground and caused damage to the building. So, and as I said, I mean, reported, all the way in the Gettysburg Times, was reported. So, big doings in West Alexander. So, but that's the story for today's episode. I will see you tomorrow for another episode of Laid Back History's 2023 Advent Calendar.